I am Dr. Swannie Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change. And these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good afternoon. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. This is episode number 2 with Mr. Watkins. So I take it, and you graduate, and you have an MBA, right?
I have an MBA with a concentration in public administration.
That's what I thought. So it's pretty much public service, public administration, and so you did that, but actually you're one of the very few that I've interviewed that actually landed sort of in the field.
Yeah,
that they're working in.
Yeah, that's true. I'm blessed for that.
So how did you choose this career path? I mean, you had an idea, because I think a lot of times we go to college, we have an idea of where we want to end, and so we pursue this particular degree, but we don't know the steps it's going to take after we get the degree to land a job where we're happy, we're passionate about it. So walk me through that.
My dad reminded me not too long ago when he came for our launch party that in the first grade I wrote a paper about being a U.S. Senator when I grew up, and I wanted to be the first black president of the United States. Now, President Obama beat me to that.
Yeah, he beat you there.
He beat me.
But you could be the second.
I could be the second. I don't know if I want to go up that high anymore. But so I always knew government was my calling. For some reason, I don't know why. Maybe I met someone early on, because again, that was in the first grade. When I moved here after graduating, I was in real estate, and I knew that I wanted to do development, but for cities, like in government, because you got to control and dictate how people lived. And I knew about the civil rights movement. I knew about the history and the struggles of my own family, and I wanted to go into government and change it so that it was beneficial for people, especially people that look like us. And after I left doing property management and got into the land bank, my first boss was Gina Dunlap. Shout out to Gina, boss and mentor, taught me everything I knew. I was hooked. I got in and learned everything I could learn about the city government as possible. And I went and got my MBA during the pandemic, because there's an intersection between the private sector and government, between business and law.
Public-private partnerships.
And I wanted to maximize that, because I was known for that in Metro as a project manager and whatnot. And I ended up getting, my PMP, my Lean Six Sigma, Agile certification.
I got all that.
Talking to people like you is what gives me inspiration, because in my generation, there isn't really, I do know some people, but they're few and far between. They're mostly black women. Shout out to black women who are getting educated above and beyond. But you and another brother by the name of Daro Mott are two people that, when I look at your career paths and trajectories, and you got the degrees and the certifications and the achievements, that to me is sort of this affirmation that, keep doing that.
Hey, you can do it.
Not only that you can, but just keep going, because somebody has walked that path.
Somebody's walked that path, and you learn a lot of lessons along the way that, you shouldn't be ashamed to share.
Yeah.
Those pitfalls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times we didn't have the mentors or the groups to actually have that discussion.
That 100%.
Right. So tell me about land bank, because I heard you mention that before.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of understanding, but not a great grasp.
The Louisville Land Bank is an incredible entity. We have one of the oldest land banks in the country. A lot of people don't know that. I think founded late 80s. A land bank is simply an entity that is comprised of the 3 largest taxing bodies in your area. So it's going to be your school board, your city, and predominantly your state. There could be other configurations, but that's how ours is. And those taxing entities get together to help absolve taxes. So property taxes go to fund schools. We have that. Obviously, you have property taxes and such also that go into the city's coffers, and then a portion goes, of course, to the state. And so you have representatives from each one of those entities that make up the land bank board. But the board gets its administrative support from the city government.
Okay.
And it holds properties, land, buildings, properties of different type, mostly land still. And it is a vehicle to take abandoned properties and repurpose them and put them back into community on the tax roll. Now, it does it in a responsible, attempts to do it in an equitable way, especially with some of the newer programs. But when I joined and became a sales manager, I worked with an amazing team member. Her name is Lynette Hulsman. She's still there. She and I were the Batman and Robin of land banking. We would travel all over this city teaching people how to buy that side yard that the city owns next to your house. Or you got an idea, you want to rehab a house. We created programs back in 2016, that can help people do that kind of stuff.
So if people want to get in contact with that office, because there's a lot of properties I'm sure the city owns in the West End.
There are some, but the vast majority, which is why we are glad we have a land bank, the vast majority of abandoned properties in the city are not owned by the city.
Is that right?
The vast majority. I mean, the land bank, I don't know what the inventory looks like now because it's been several years since I've done this. But back then, we would have at any given time 500 to 600 or so properties, 10% of that being buildings, houses, vacant warehouses, so on and so forth. The vast majority was land.
Okay.
And then you would hear people say, we have 6,000 properties in the city that are abandoned. Well, we only owned 600 or so. That means the rest were in defunct corporations who disbanded, who didn't get rid of the assets, or grandma's house when she died and she didn't have a will. And it's just sitting there. Or a bank back in the foreclosure crisis. Banks were buying up everything. Third-party tax lien holders were buying up everything. Realized they couldn't sell them, so they just walked away from them. And cities still had to cut the grass and board up the houses and demolish them when they needed to be, or if they caught fire, do all that stuff. And it cost almost $500,000 every year to maintain those properties.
Okay.
Even the ones we don't own. So, but the land bank can get ownership through foreclosure, which is why I say it's one of the most underutilized assets, because you can report something, see if there's an interest that the city can foreclose on. We would have to have a lien or something like that. The city would. And then you could apply through one of the programs, learn how to do it. Now, you do need money.
Right.
There are people, I literally had people back then, we were doing dollar properties. They would come with $1 and be like, give me a house. I was like, no, no, I can teach you how to get there. And that takes me to another brief story. I met this black couple. They were maybe 50s. They had lived in an apartment in the West End for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And this guy, this brother was impressive. He had just finished an apprenticeship program to be like a plumber.
Right.
He promised his wife before they died that he was going to buy her a house. And me and Lynette had created this RFP program that we were trying to get off the ground. And we got this really great house off of Dixie somewhere. And it didn't need that much with it. I mean, you could, with elbow grease and some money, you could probably get it done for $30K.
Right.
This man came to the land bank, and we worked with him for months to show him how to write a budget and how to schedule things together. And right before Christmas of that year, we took that proposal to the land bank, and we said, can we sell this property to this couple? Mm-hmm. And they agreed. It was 2 days or so before Christmas, and I call it the Christmas miracle.
Right.
That brother got into that house. He used his connections, his money, his sweat equity, rehabbed that house, moved into it. I believe him and his grandchildren, and they come in there today. And it's stories like that when I think about public service and government empowering you, that's what government is for. It is not to hoard money and tell you, I know what's best for you, but it's to take that idea and that ingenuity that you have, and I'm supposed to be your resource to make that next right thing happen.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett, CEO for Park Duval Community Health Centers. We conduct WIC, nutrition, and open enrollment for healthcare. So this is a one-stop shop facility for everybody in the community.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
How are you liking the show? Scan the QR code. Get information about the resources and services provided by Park Duval online at pdchc.org today. Now back to Dr. Jett.
So it's apparent to me, and hopefully my audience, that, you know, what I've learned in just this little bit of time, you are a very resourceful and crafty individual.
I'll take crafty. Yeah.
Because you
Resourceful.
find solutions to common problems, but sometimes very uncommon as well. You know, and I just think back about you transferring from Florida to Kentucky.
You're not gonna let me live that down.
Hey, that was, it actually sounds like something I would do. Because I remember one time in Chicago, and this is a funny story. There were some ladies me and my cousin wanted to date on the next block, but we didn't want to tell them that we were from the U.S., so I carried a Jamaican accent.
Wow.
6 months.
Wow. Here I am thinking the whole time you judging me, and you, we both wanted to be another ethnicity.
Yeah, I was, Jamaican, man.
Hey.
And I never told them different. So I don't know how long the relationship lasted, but I never told them different. And it was kind of funny. So we the silly things you do in high school.
Silly things you do in high school that is a testament to the imagination and the creativity
It
that
is.
is innate to us as people.
It is.
But particularly those of us as black people, but even closer, those of us who are black men.
Yeah.
You know, what we have, we've always had to make more with less.
Correct.
We've always had to make something out of nothing.
Right.
And I think that creativity translates into, I know a bit about you too, because when I was in Leadership Louisville, you came and spoke on a panel, and the way that you interweaved complicated public health matters in a way that was technically sound, because I'm the technical guy. You know, when you know what you're talking about, you can tell somebody if you're proficient in something. You can tell if someone is giving you a bunch of hot air in about 30 seconds.
Right.
And the way you masterfully went into social determinants of health, a social ecological model, and then you translated it through every place that you went. And then you talked about your accomplishments like they were just, it's Tuesday. Like, yeah, I did that ordinance and I did that. But there was such a level of confident humility that as a black man, we don't see, and oftentimes in spaces, we don't get to be.
Right. No,
Because if we're too smart, we're arrogant.
Right.
And if you don't achieve, then you're the statistic.
Right.
And you walked in that room dressed the same way you are now, communicated it well, but then you never lost your humanity and the personable nature that you have, and you turned it on and off in so many different ways. And I was sitting there going, yeah, well, yes, sir.
I appreciate that. You know, in thinking about your career in public service, what do you say is the biggest accomplishment that you're proud of?
Oh, man.
I mean, the housing part with the land bank was a good one.
Housing that story is fantastic. I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of grassroots organizations, churches, faith-based CDCs, that type of thing. I think the greatest accomplishment for me is being known as a resource to people.
Okay.
I can point to a lot of different projects. and nobody wants to hear my resume because obviously.
But they do, because that's important for people to know who you are, what you represent, and what you can provide to them.
Man, so the housing piece is one. My favorite project outside of creating homeowners and whatnot was we created an urban orchard in the Russell neighborhood called Produce Park. It's not in existence today. The project itself still is around, but it's not maintained. But earlier on, it was across from what is now known as the Norton Health Track and Field Complex.
Okay.
And I got to watch that through 3 growing cycles. If you ever do know anything about orchards, that first growing season, you can't
It's not
touch it.
replicable.
The second season, when the peaches grew, those little black girls and boys that lived across the street came and picked peaches off the tree in Russell. That, to me,
That was huge.
that changed everything for me about what was possible. I've done violence prevention work before, took a mentee and watched him graduate from the program in the city to go on to tech, get a job. That to me was something. And or running the Office of Performance Improvement, where the city of Louisville was top 2 in the country on government efficiency and operation through the What Worked Cities designation. And I got to work with every city agency on strategy and project management and go to these public servants just like me in these city agencies. Because oftentimes you only see the director, you see the mayor, and all of that is great. And I was a chief in the former administration. That was great. But it's the men and women in these organizations like corrections or fire or public health or the library or animal services or parks that had a great idea. And by the time we finished working with them, they just needed a thought partner.
Right.
And then they created something that changed somebody's life. And to know that I was a resource to be that connector, that's
That's
to
a
me,
good feeling. That's a good
or to
feeling.
go to a church and restore our community's faith in an institution that has been historically weaponized against it, because I was able to help a CDC help their community. Yeah.
Please make sure you visit one of our 5 locations, not only in Louisville, but outside of Louisville and surrounding areas. Thank you.
Unmask the night and join us for an evening of elegance at the 2024 Legacy Gala, Masquerade Mystique, hosted by Park Duval Community Health Centers.
Mark your calendars for an unforgettable experience on Saturday, August 17th at the majestic Muhammad Ali Center.
Every moment promises to dazzle and inspire, with all proceeds benefiting the Dr. Harvey Sloan Patient Assistance Fund, a fund created to benefit our community's most underserved.
Don't miss out. For tickets and sponsorship opportunities, visit our website or call us today. Your presence will help ensure everyone in our community has access to the health care they deserve.
Scan the QR code for more information.
How are you liking the show? Scan the QR code. Get information about the resources and services provided by Park Duval online at pdchc.org today. Now back to Dr. Jett.
So, I've heard a rumor that they want to gentrify the West End. The first phase of that is the Opportunity Center, the hospital in the West End, and they're building a lot of housing. And so, I've often heard and seen in the past that, instead of reducing the homelessness or instead of dealing with crime, you just gentrify the neighborhood and move people out. So some of this would be District 42.
A lot of it. Actually, the Goodwill Opportunity Campus is in District 42.
Correct.
So is the Norton Health Track and Field Complex, also in District 42. Shout out to Parkland and Shawnee specifically.
So is Park Duval.
Yeah, so I wish I had Park Duval. The district used to have Park Duval is I could spend this whole time talking about the benefits and the future
Yeah.
of Park Duval, especially the work that you're doing, but you see the macro level of it and where it's going. But to the question about gentrification, my answer is going to be a bit nuanced, and anybody listening to that, I've got to caveat a couple things. One, I do not speak for the city of Louisville as an entity in the organization. I'm here in my capacity, being a public servant and also being somebody who's running for office. And I'm going to give it to you straight. The reality about gentrification, I think, oftentimes gets put onto government as if it's like this sinister plan.
Right.
I oftentimes tell people, never ascribe ill intent to what could easily be explained as ignorance.
Right.
A lot of people think that those of us in government are just a part of this secret cabal,
Right.
and we are just waking up every day figuring out how we could take over the world like Pinky and the Brain. No. No. There ain't enough hours in the day.
I was thinking of SpongeBob.
SpongeBob. What's the guy, Squidward and all that?
Squidward.
Yeah, no. Now, government as an entity is not a living, breathing body. It's not an organism. It is
Right.
comprised of people who have individual aspirations and such. So there could have been somebody sometime, there may be somebody somewhere that says, well, I'm going to hook up my friend or whatnot. That
Right.
stuff exists everywhere.
It's everywhere.
What ends up happening to neighborhoods that are gentrified is that it oftentimes comes at a point where a neighborhood that has been so under-resourced and so divested is now dealing with all of the problems that come with that. Now, typically it's public safety issues, and the people living there are going, do something.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've walked in these neighborhoods, particularly west of 9th. And I'm careful when I say this because too many times people talk about the West End only in issues that are negative. There are Olmsted Parks in West Louisville. You walk down 43rd and Garland and you see some of these houses and the people that I get to talk to, West End is beautiful.
Oh, it's some huge houses there.
It's absolutely gorgeous. So I want to be careful about when I say that, and I don't want to couch it in a negative light. But I'm talking to folks in neighborhoods that are saying, hey, one thing you can do for me as state representative or work with your council person is, can you get the police to ride through here a bit often? Because I don't like the activity that's going on my block. Mm-hmm. The house been abandoned for. I talked about abandoned houses. What's somebody going to do with that? There are blocks in the West End where there are more abandoned houses than occupied.
That is true.
Today.
That is true. So I start driving. So I have a site in Russell. Mm-hmm. It's right there on 15th and Broadway. Yep. They building, I guess it's a senior living facility.
Yeah, the HPI project there. Yeah.
Right there. But I start driving neighborhood. I drive through Portland, come back around, drive all the way down Northwestern Parkway, circle, and I see a lot of abandoned houses. And there isn't a lot of police that drive through there at times.
No.
I know they concentrated in the high areas where they see the violence.
Yeah.
So, but I don't see a lot of what I thought was good community police, not Washington, Sanford, Florida, with Chief Cecil Smith. Is the police actually walked the neighborhood and got a chance to know the residents of the neighborhood?
You used to know your officers
Correct.
In your community. You used to. My dad, I said it was a pastor. Of course, we knew people back then. When I was coming up in school, we had DARE, drug abuse resistance education. Yep. You knew who was in your community. They came to your church, came to your school. They looked like you mostly, but to the point of gentrification. So what ends up happening? You have this crisis of abandoned houses, multi-level situations, and then you have people crying for development.
Right.
We all want our neighborhoods to develop.
Right.
Because, home ownership is what created the middle class in this country.
Correct.
So then what ends up happening is a project will come out to create housing. Mm-hmm. Then developers are gonna develop.
Right.
They see funds, money, opportunities, resources. So then they follow.
It's economic growth. The capital that has been divested now is coming back in.
It comes back in. And so they look at that abandoned house where some people see as an eyesore, and they see that thing as Play-Doh.
Right.
They see it as an opportunity to sculpt something. Now, what ends up happening while those two competing interests converge is that everyday people that are living there get left out of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's what's called displacement.
Right.
I argue that our communities want our property values to increase.
Right.
We want to leave a legacy for our kids and grandkids too. And there's this notion that in West Louisville, communities don't want development. They don't want growth. And that's not what I hear from my constituents. What I hear is people say, we want you to grow, but we want you to grow with us.
Okay.
Don't leave me out of the conversation. Don't price me out of the market to where I can't go back in. And that's where I think government has historically failed, where there are things on the books right now that can prevent from displacement. We talked about homestead exemptions, tax moratoriums, land trusts, all these types of things that have been on the books for 30, 40 years.
Right.
That we can go in. And not only that, not only keeping prices at a place where they don't grow too fast like it is everywhere across the country, but can we bring jobs and industry to West Louisville? Can somebody talk about that? Because I don't.
That's an important part that's missing.
No, I'm not hearing the fact that you should be able to go to school in your neighborhood to a great school that's funded by the property taxes from your great house because you bought that house with your great job in your neighborhood.
Right.
You shouldn't have to go all the way to the other side of town just to get a great job.
Right.
Or just have that. So I believe gentrification, because it does happen, it happens when there is development for people that is not with people.
Just like in the old days, and I say the old days, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, you were part of a community that helped grow and raise the kids. So it was truly a village. And right now, the village is shattered.
It's shattered. I see hopes and glimmer of us going back to our roots with, I'm a church kid, right?
Right.
There's a song that says, talks about how I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over. We got over because our generations were connected. You know, we had the elders with the youth. Somehow we have separated ourselves from the generations. You're a generation right before me. I'm going to say right before because I don't think you're that much older than me because black don't crack, so I couldn't tell anyway. You have stuff to pour into me.
Right.
Now I'm a millennial. There's a generation below me. I got to be able to sit in a space of intellectual humility and say, oh, that brother's talking some sense. I need to
Need
sit.
to listen. And that's what we used to do.
Yep.
And so when I say it's shattered, we still have remnants of the village.
Yeah.
We just need to make the village back whole. So I want to thank you for
Brother.
coming to the show. I wish you much luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody watching the show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We'll make sure we address it on the next show. Have a great afternoon.